Hello, I am here with Neena, and Neena's got an exciting story. And the reason why you want to watch this Facebook Live is because Neena has taken the steps that many wish they could, and many probably will, and I think some already have. And those are the steps from going from full-time employment, having a job, 9 to 5 or shift work, which was in healthcare,
Yep.
and transitioned over to a full-time investor. Now you got to tell me, what does that feel like going from stable income to complete, I don't want to say complete uncertainty, but there's a level of uncertainty because you've never taken that step before and you
For
don't have
sure.
that cushy netting anymore. How was that? What made you want to take this step, and tell us how it actually felt when you were doing it?
Thanks, Calvin, for having me here. And I'm so excited to be on this Facebook Live with you. I know you asked me, what was the transition like and describe a word that where I was and where I am today. And insane is the word that comes to my mind. Even as you were describing that, insane to think I used to spend 50 to 60 hours as a full-time pharmacist behind the counter, managing multiple locations, achieving these amazing professional heights, and yet still financially trapped, because the common saying is the more you make, the more you spend. And even making $20,000 a month passively through the portfolio, of course, lifestyle expenses change and goals change. And at the same time, realizing that when we develop tools, systems, strategies of growing the portfolio, we never have to be inhibited at that 20,000. You never have to hit a ceiling. The sky's the limit when it comes to being an educated professional investor.
Yeah. And I mean, there's so many clients that we deal with, and their goal is, and what we're talking about today is, how can you actually, create $20,000 of passive income through the vehicle of real estate? And the vehicle is kind of like this bus, and there's so many different ways you could kind of, that you can create wealth in real estate. There's not a one size fits all. If you look at real
Absolutely.
estate investing, there's probably over 50 ways you can truly make money, and it's ultimately about uncovering what's the best route for you based on your goals and the resources that you have available. And that's another advantage coming to recon is you get to see, because everybody's done it different. Everyone's journey is a little bit different. And Neena, why don't we do, give us a quick summary about yourself. Like, where did you start? Let's see if we can do it. I know we want to focus on too much of that, but I do want to know, like, tell us, where did you start,
Sure.
and where are you going?
Absolutely. So I started with a six-figure student loan. I went and got my doctorate in pharmacy in Boston, Massachusetts. So if any, I'm Canadian, and before we start any of the political stuff, I am Canadian. However, I did go to school in the US, six-figure student loan, working this 50, 60-hour week grind. Again, doing well. Read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. My brother-in-law gave me that book. And again, our family, friends, we start turning to people who in our circles, our closest networks, where you start seeing some results or how people might be doing things differently, and you start to get curious. I think curiosity was for me the spark. And at that point, my husband and I, we decided that once every 10 to 15 years, if we have enough equity or if we'll have enough cash saved up, we'll try and pay off our loans, student loans, as well as buy a condo or pre-construction. And we kind of started on that track. And I really realized very quickly, I love what I did as a career professional, as a pharmacist. However, that's not what I could see myself doing for 30, 40, 50 years. And so I started attending conferences, not like Recon. I haven't seen a conference like that ever. However, networking events, educational seminars, and a lot of people had ideas. A lot of people had the perfect formula. And yet you still heard of people struggling. And I heard a podcast once, and I think someone asked Robert Kiyosaki, is real estate a good asset class to invest in? And I think his response was something like, well, it depends. Are you educated enough to invest into it?
Mm.
And that really sparked something for me. And that's when I went on this journey to say, okay, from 2021 to 2023, uh, really got knee deep in an immersive curriculum within the academy to learn different strategies, lease options, private lending, leveraging my RRSPs, multi units, land development. And within 8 months of starting my education and working one on one with my mentor, I was able to get into multiple projects, both as a passive investor as well as a managing partner, to really put together and create opportunities that started to replace my monthly active income as a pharmacist.
Hmm.
And at that point, Calvin, I had implemented strategies across Canada, BC, Alberta, yes, Ontario. There are opportunities still, New Brunswick, now in the US as well. Was able to, again, within 2 years, find ways and create opportunities to replace this income. And very different where my husband and I had to make some tough decisions. It's not, again, it's learning, but then also doing the work. And at that point, leveraging underperforming equity, borrowing at 5 or 6%, making it work at 20, 30%, some investments more, some investments less, but really strategy specific. And again, what worked for me, Calvin, and I look at some of my peers, everyone has done it a little bit differently and is shied away from that whole like, okay, get into a flip only or get into a multi-unit only and siloing in a strategy. Truly believe a well-rounded investor is able to leverage multiple strategies and multiple markets and then pivot as the market changes as well. We've seen so much of that over the last three
Hmm.
years in itself. And so really becoming a diversified investor, leveraging these multiple strategies.
Amazing. Amazing. And where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Where do you see yourself going?
Well, I am doing what a lot of people are doing right now. Myself and one of my business partners, we've started some infill projects in Edmonton in itself. I'm actively growing my lease options business in Ontario and also doing a lot more passive stuff, investing in the stock markets as well as, and yes, it is a viable strategy if, again, as Robert Kiyosaki says, you learn how to do it and you do it in an educated way. And then also actively growing to impact people and show hardworking professionals that you can also be an investor while still growing and climbing your corporate ladder or being in healthcare. And actually, Calvin, I want to tell you a quick story,
Hmm.
if that's okay.
Of course.
And we were at one of our workshops, one of our Trust Your Talent Academy workshops in Toronto, actually. And there was a healthcare conference going on right next door. And there was a pharmacist there who was attending this conference. And so he happened to walk by our workshop and he saw that we were educating people again on investing in strategies and how could you make your money work. And like most healthcare professionals, this guy really had zero idea of how to leverage debt, how to think of debt, not to have debt, because again, you go to school, get good grades. And anyways, he decided through some coaching and some mentorship and road mapping with him, we figured out a way that he'd be able to, while working his 50 hours a week, learn how to invest and start replacing his income. And it was beautiful to see him walk across the stage last year at our annual conference to collect his Freedom Fighter Award because in addition to growing in his professional career, he's now been able to rewire his money programming to continue to scale as an investor. So it's really great when we get to create this impact amongst other people where we didn't even think or learn that was possible growing up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's incredible. And I think it's, finding a tribe that you can relate to, that you feel a part of, and then you have this community that's there to support you, answer questions, set you up with, the right professional partners when you're building your team. There's so many pieces to the puzzle that you have to collect along the way. And so, when you are teamed up with a great organization like Trust Your Talent, it can really allow you to accelerate your real estate career in a shorter period of time.
Absolutely. And when you can speak the same language as people, remember, all money needs deals, all deals need money, and not all money is equal. And when we talk about leveraging different strategies, lease options, private lending, using your RSPs, infill, land development, this is where learning how to speak the same language as someone goes just vastly different than what I've seen in other places I've exposed myself to, and I think that's the beautiful part with the community. And it's again, it's not a one size fits all, and at the same time, there are multiple options for people depending on the resources, the time, the knowledge, ways to really come together and grow.
Hmm.
Um, in addition to that, I would say that we say knowledge is power. What I would like to say is that knowledge is safety. It's the application of knowledge that really takes you to the next level. And so even at Recon, as people come and you learn and you start exposing yourself, you start networking, don't leave it at the door when you walk out. Really
Hmm.
think about what are your next steps going to be when you leave that 2 days, and who are you aligning yourself with? Who's going to help you actually take it to the next level? Where do you want to say you've grown to in a year from now when we meet at
Hmm.
Recon again?
Yeah. Yeah, and the way we formulated Recon is because we know that these conferences is, it provides you, it's like drinking through a fire hose. And then when you leave, you don't really know what actual items to take because it's like this paralysis by analysis. And so what we try and do for each person that's in the room is to try and simplify it and to just understand, what are your most important goals and what are the top three things that can help move the needle and get you closer to those goals. And then don't forget everything else, but everything else isn't as urgent or important. So being able to understand what is urgent, what is going to actually move that needle forward and help you step forward. Focus your attention on that. Don't be distracted by the static. And so we want to be able to allow you a space and create that mindset early on when you first enter the room right from day one to allow you to just focus what are your top three goals, and then all you're doing is collecting information for those top three. And if it doesn't help you get into those top three, you say no, you're not involved, because that's just going to be a distraction. And again, we consider that static. So it's I think that's fantastic. And Nina, let's talk about, if someone's wanting to achieve passive income on a monthly basis, the most
Mhm.
common we get for real estate investors starting out is 5,000 a month. And then usually when they achieve 5,000 their month, they're like, okay, how do we do 10? And then they increase it. So what would be some of the steps you'd recommend for someone that's looking at generating up to or more than 20,000 of passive income on a monthly basis?
One thing we want to really focus on, Calvin, and so much of what you said there, I'm like, oh yes, like I want to talk about that. And one thing we really want to focus on is sustainability of growth. And yes, $20,000 a month, that doesn't happen overnight. That is a journey, that's an evolving journey. And how do you ensure that you're positioned so that as the market goes up and down or sideways, you can continue to grow and scale? Because interest rates can change, interest rates go up, God forbid, I hope there's not another COVID. That could happen again too. And the book, The Secrets of the Canadian Real Estate Investing Cycle, talks about real estate being an 8 to 12 year cyclical pattern. And so, what happened in 2008 happened again, and it's going to happen again in the future. And what will allow us to keep pivoting and growing? And so, 20,000 is kind of the top of the mountain, and a great book I've read is Atomic Habits, and I read it once a year myself because, like you just said, focusing on your three steps. Yes, let's set a goal that is going to first replace your household minimum expenses, your rent or mortgage, your basic groceries. For me, and that was $5,000 a month. It didn't replace my monthly income. It replaced about 50% of it at that point. But my goal, Calvin, you used the number, was $5,000 a month. And once I hit that, then it was okay, I have the confidence to know how to do this. And whether one of my investments goes sideways, and it will, there's no perfect deal. It was for me figuring out how was I going to pivot to continue to grow and then make that 5,000, 10,000, and then 12, and then 15. And now, again, the sky's the limit when we think about opportunities.
Hmm.
And really a knowledgeable investor is able to analyze any business opportunity, whether it's real estate, whether it's an operational business, really understanding how money works, money in, money out, what's it going to cost me, and what's risk on the table. And not learning how to do something like this, Calvin, not learning ways to grow and create that sustainable growth is almost financially, I'm going to say this, it might sound drastic, financially irresponsible.
Hmm.
And I believe right now as investors, uh, again, I'm constantly investing in different businesses, whether it's in real estate or in other industries, figuring out what opportunities will continue to allow me to diversify, grow, scale, while again maintaining a large passive element of it.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. And as you're speaking, and you talk about how it can be kind of negligent to take this route and to allow yourself the opportunity to be successful when it comes to finances. And you really have to step away from your previous identity. And a lot of us are tied to this previous identity of having to work a 9 to 5, only being worth $100,000 a year. And I think we self-limit ourselves most of the time in being able to step away from our previous self and step into our new version. And I know, reflecting back on myself when I was in the fitness industry, I was in a regional manager for 12 years. In the last 3 years, I felt like I was turning into a bit of a zombie and I didn't have the same
Mm,
energy. I was more tired during the day. And I realized I wasn't living like my purpose. I wasn't excited about anything. And it was really hard. And I think I was digging myself a hole because the longer I allowed myself to go in that direction, the harder it is to step out of it. And then it got
totally.
to the point where the pain to change outweighed the pain to stay the same. And I was like, hey, I'm doing some real estate stuff on the side. What if I dived into this a little bit further, just got a little bit better and not put too much pressure on myself? I made some small goals and held myself accountable. And those baby steps, after a year or 2 years, you look back and you just realize you climbed a big part of Everest,
Absolutely.
and you don't realize how high you are until you look back and reflect down on where you were. And then I'm realizing now, like, why do I have so much energy throughout the day? It's because I'm genuinely excited. And once you achieve that passion, but you can get out of that, you can get out of your day-to-day rhythm. It's not easy to do it. It's extremely hard, but it's just
Hmm.
taking your first step. If you're in a position and you're not happy, and finance isn't everything, I do think progress equals happiness, and progress can
Sure.
be in any area of your life. But it's just taking that next step. And if financial goals are something important to you, just know that real estate is probably one of the most common vehicles to be able to achieve that. I do feel it's interesting because once you hit a level, Lena, like you've hit, there's like this rule of reciprocity where a lot of our fulfillment is actually helping other people and being able
Actually,
to share your message, right?
so it's kind of, this is my like desk copy of it. So The Go Giver
Let's
by
read
Bob.
that. Okay. The five laws of stratospheric success: the law of value, the law of compensation, the law of influence, the law of authenticity, the law of reciprocity, receptivity. I love it. And it's
And
on your
the
desk.
It's on my desk. So The Go Giver by Bob Berg, one of my most favorite books. It's a book that I read at the start of my real estate investing career and it started my education and learning. And it really put things into perspective because when we're out there in the real world, you and your personal, the fitness industry, myself in healthcare, they're all similar. I mean, but we're out there and everyone's grinding and everyone's, it's, who comes up ahead a little bit and what it's too cutthroat out there. And when we take a step back to say, okay, there are people around, there's communities around us there to support, who are really looking like I've hit my success points. I'm very comfortable. I'm growing, scaling, and I call myself. So once I read this book, sorry, I have so many things to say. Once I read this book, I was like, wow, actually, go-givers do exist. People who are not just looking for the next dollar or who are looking to genuinely share information. And many times I get on calls with people who want to learn or potential students or people who just want to understand my journey. And I don't look at those calls as, okay, how do I charge a dollar and cent to this? This is really about getting you on the right path and figuring out what works for you. And like I always say, what worked for me might not work for you. However, I can probably promise you I can help point you in the right direction, whether it's within the academy or in a different direction altogether. It's about an individual and their goals. And I think all of us there on when we were at our planning session a couple weeks ago, it was everyone's there just to give value, share, and collaborate and grow together, no matter what program or industry or asset class you're focusing in.
Isn't Nina fantastic, everybody? I mean, like literally, she is giving you the key right now. She wants to meet you. If you're watching this, and if she can add one piece of clarity, one puzzle piece to what seems like a very large puzzle, you can tell she will do it. She will spend the time with you and she will add that value. Nina, thank you so much. We could do this every week. I mean, you're just
We
so great to chat with. You have so much value. There's so many ways we could have taken this conversation.
Oh, everyone out there, don't worry, no matter where you're starting from, if you have started investing, if it's not working, if it is working, you're looking to scale, you're looking just to start, we all start somewhere. And I definitely invite you to come chat, find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, send me a message, and definitely happy to connect and help and share and help you get to the next level.
Absolutely. Nina, we'll see you very soon.
Good.
Enjoy your afternoon. Always great chatting with
Thanks.
you, and we'll see you very
Awesome,
soon.
Calvin. Thanks. See you
Okay.
soon. Take
See
care.
ya.
Bye.